Now in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can create personalized ornaments that look like this. Check this out, guys. This is a photorealistic ornament, right, of a loved one that you could create and actually sell on your Etsy store, Facebook Marketplace, or in your social network. These ornaments, something that looks like this, are going for around $20 on Etsy. And they have not only a message in the front, or a photo in the front, but then they also have a message in the back. Check it out. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how you can create the ornament itself, how you can cut out the ornament. I'm also going to show you how can you engrave an ornament like this. And the techniques that I'm going to show you here also apply to a variety of lasers. Today we're going to be focusing on two primary lasers, actually three lasers. We're going to be using the Xtool P2 CO2 laser to cut out acrylic like this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to engrave this with an F1 Ultra, but I'm also going to give you the settings for the F1, so you'll be able to do this. Now, if you have another laser type, the techniques and the approach that I'm sharing with you here will apply to those lasers as well. So buckle up. Let's check how you can make this and turn profit, especially as we head to the new year. Now, before we go through the steps on how to create this, I wanted to give you a close-up look as to what we're talking about here. Check out this acrylic piece. This was engraved on using a fiber laser. In this case, it was the F1 Ultra, but you could do this with other fiber lasers and UV lasers as well. Notice how beautiful this detail is and how much this person's face pops in the actual example. As I flip this over, I also have a message: miss you every day. Now, one of the things that you've been seeing a lot, especially for this holiday season, is a lot of personalized ornaments. Nothing is more personalized than having a photo of a loved one, especially someone who has passed, that you can hang on your tree so that you always remember that person. So very, very sentimental, something that's important to many of us, and something that I'm sure is going to have a lot of traction if you learn how to create these. So let's go through and look at how do you cut the acrylic, followed by how do you engrave the acrylic. And then the third thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you use the Xtool AI software to create this message and image, right? And you'll see how easy it is. It just takes 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes to create something like this. Let's get right to it. Now, there's two ways that you could approach creating these ornaments. One, you can purchase the ornaments pre-cut. And I've been able to find and source them on Amazon for 30 of them at an average price around 59 cents an ornament. And we're going to be looking at both ways to really create these ornaments for this holiday project. So again, you can get around 30 of these ornaments pre-cut for 59 cents. Now, if you have a CO2 laser, let's say like the P2, and this is what we're going to be using in this example, what you could do is, depending on the size of the acrylic that you purchase, you can purchase acrylic by the sheet. And what you see here is the actual ornaments themselves laid out on a 12 by 12 sheet. And typically you can get these 2 sheets for $16, which gives you a cost of 88 cents per ornament. I found that pretty surprising. I found it surprising that the actual cut them yourself, do them yourself model was a little bit higher. But this is what I learned. Now, you could get a larger sheet because you'll notice that I have some space here that I can work with still available. So I looked at another option, and this is 12 by 16. You could get a 12 by 16 sheet of acrylic, and obviously you can put more ornaments on there based on the size. And by the way, the size of these ornaments are 3.5 inches, and they've already come with a little hole that I put in there so that the cut will basically cut these all out and then just make them ready for engraving. Again, I've been finding that the sheets, depending on the brand, the cheapest one I could find was 66 cents per ornament, given the fact that you can get 2 sheets for 16 and the number of ornaments that I can fit. So there's a lot of options here, and I was, again, surprised to find that buying them pre-cut was cheaper, because typically I don't really find that often. So it's really up to you if you want to go through the process of cutting the ornaments yourself or buying them already cut. Keep in mind that as you're factoring your cost that will lead into your profit, your time to cut, your time to prep is all going in the cost of the final product. So you'll want to make sure that you're factoring that in. Now, you also may have acrylic laying around, spare acrylic. In that case, use the one you have. So I'm going to show you how you can create this grid so that you could go ahead and do this cut. And we're actually going to cut a few on our P2. So now the sheet of acrylic that I have is a little bit shorter. It's not quite the 12 by 12. It actually just comes up to this part right here. So I'm only going to be able to get 2 rows, and I'm going to be able to get probably about 6 ornaments out of this. But this is the acrylic. I have the acrylic sheet still on, and I have it loaded in my Xtool P2 laser. Now, the cool thing about Xtool and their material library is that they give you all the settings. And I've been using lasers for a long time, and I have a lot of different type of lasers. And one of the hardest part of any type of laser engraving is finding the right settings. That's the most time consuming. Now keep in mind, once you have them, it's really easy to just reuse them because you can store them. But what I love about the Xtool line is the fact that they have these already preset for you. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. So if I go here, I can actually choose any of these pieces of acrylic, and we're dealing with a 3mm. But if I do more materials, and I'm going through here, and I'm going to go ahead and choose that 3mm, right? When I choose that 3mm, you'll notice here that I have all my settings. Here is the machine, here is the power settings that I'll need, or the power of the machine, and then that it's actually going to be processed flat, and I'm going to be doing a cut. And it's giving me an example. So it's giving me all the details I need in order to get this done. And by the way, if I wanted to switch machines, like I wanted to work with a different machine, I could go ahead and choose the F1 Ultra, which is also really popular fiber laser that has 2 laser types. And you'll notice that you can actually do, again, a really nice job with this machine as well. However, for this type of acrylic, it's highlighting that it's going to be an engrave and a bitmap, no cutting in this one. So what we'll be doing is something combined with both of these. And you know what, frankly, I've been able to cut acrylic with my F1, and all I have to do is change the laser type from being IR to blue light, and look at what we have. We have a cut function. So notice this is the cut function. And again, all this experimentation is something that they save you by giving you this material library. But what we're going to be doing for this example is we're going to be cutting the acrylic using the P2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to engrave on the F1 and F1 Ultra so that you can see how they work, which, by the way, we also can do this on a fiber laser as well, the actual engraving, because of just how the material works. So first, let's create some ornaments. So I have my ornaments here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my applications, and I'm going to choose my grid array. And you'll notice as soon as I open up the grid array, it's pretty smart, right? It automatically put 4 of these out here. I'm going to space them out just a little bit, right? So I can get some space. I'm going to go one more, set this up. So now I have my space. And if I zoom into this in a second, I'll be able to see that. I'm going to add another column because I think I can get away with 6. And in this sheet, I'm going to get away with 6 ornaments that I'm going to be able to cut out. Now, keep in mind that this 88 cents value or cost of creating these ornaments is not going to be accurate because I'm not getting this extra row on the bottom. But this is going to give you a sense of how quickly it is to create the ornaments. So what I'm going to do next is, now that I'm done here, and I like the way things look, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, right, so I can see. You notice there's enough space here, right? So there's enough space here. I'm going to get 6 of these, and you'll notice right here I can see the actual material, right? So here is the back slats of the actual laser itself, and then this is the material that I have in here, right? And a couple things I did before actually running this, I also did a measurement. So I went ahead and I clicked on this guy right here to do a quick measure so that I could measure the depth of the material. And then what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be choosing a cut, and I'm going to be using the settings that are automatically part of that predefined list, right? So if I go back into that, let's double check that. We have this acrylic. I'm going to confirm it. I'm going to say I got it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at a cut, and then I can see what my cut settings are here. Power 100, speed 20, pass 1. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit process and let the laser cut these ornaments for me. Now the process to cut and engrave acrylic is very fast on the P2, and what you'll see is this is somewhat of a sped up video, but it really just takes minutes to be able to cut out acrylic ornaments, especially if you have the acrylic yourself. Now, I did this because I just wanted to show you how if you don't source the acrylic, you can actually cut your own, and it's super easy. Now, engraving a photo on acrylic is really easy, but you have to have some prep first. Now, first you have to have a photo, and you'll notice that I'm working with a black and white photo or grayscale. You'll need a frame that represents your ornament. And then we're going to go through the process of taking a photo that looks like this and turning it to looks like one of these two right here. This is really different. What you're seeing here is this photo, which is right now black and white with tones of gray in it. And what we're doing is we're inverting it. So you'll notice this white area is the black. You'll notice that cheekbones where you have some shadows, you'll notice them right here, how they're in white. The brighter the white, the darker the black. It's kind of weird, right? You have to think backwards or inverted in some way. This again, the darker the black, the whiter it will represent here. So that's what we're shooting for. Now, when you see more tones, and you notice here that I have more variation in the dark colors, what I'm having is more depth and more shadows. So I'm going to show you how to go through this process and create an image that will engrave nicely on acrylic. Now, you could also work with the color photo. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in a color photo that I created. And you'll notice that this photo, as it comes in, and we're going to scale it, this is of an older man, and it's in color. We want this. We have to convert it to grayscale, right? Something like this that looks like black and white. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into adjust. And we'll go into adjust, and we're going to just touch this once. Watch, I'm going to move this down just a little bit. And then you're going to notice, boom, it changed to now an image that I can invert nicely and use it for engraving. Now, you could do this in a third-party application if you want. I'm just doing everything inside of XCS. Now, if you're using, for example, a fiber laser that is not an Xtool product, but another fiber, which this is going to work on a fiber as well, you could go through a similar process, but you wouldn't be doing your inversion in the app unless you're using like a light burn, which is more robust, but it's a very similar process. So anything you learn here is going to apply to other lasers as well. So now that I have done that, what I can then choose is I can choose invert, and watch what happens. So let's do this. We're gonna go back and notice all the dark areas. So notice how this is dark, notice how this is dark, right? Look at the shadow that's right here. Watch what's gonna happen when I choose invert. Those are the areas that get blown out or are the brightest, they're the whitest, right? Now, I could do this by reducing this, bringing this down to, let's say, 180. Let's say around right here. Watch what's going to happen to the photo now. Ah, see that? Remember, everything that is white is going to be black, and everything that is dark or black is actually going to be white. So we're actually, and we're going to go back to this. So notice how this area of his face is very highlighted. You see all these areas? And notice as I do this, this is going to be darker. Now, what may happen is the image may be a little bit too white. So by bringing up this grayscale, what I'm doing is I'm bringing in more levels. And those levels are going to give me less of a very bright image and something that looks more natural and closer to the skin. So the higher I bring it up, you'll notice how that still is there, but you see some definition that came in, right? So you'll play with this and you'll pretty much find the right settings that you'd like to have by making these changes. So now that I've done that, I'm going to move this photo over to the side just for a second. And you'll notice that I have this little small one right here. I typically, when I'm working with photos or working with acrylic that I haven't worked with before and I don't really understand the settings yet, I'll create not a full image to test, but I'll create a small version of this to engrave, and sometimes I'll create a pattern of them so that I can see which settings work best. That's just a tip, something that you can do. Now, so going back to the photos, right? So this is now set for engraving if I wanted to engrave, right? But we're going to go back to our reference photo, which is this one right here. So the other thing I have, and you'll notice here is the background of my F1 Ultra. And again, this is going to work on the F1 as well. And I'll give you the settings for F1 so that you have them both. So first, what I want to do is I want to get this into a circular shape. And you notice that here I have a circle, and this circle is going to be 3.5. So this is 3.5 inches. And I have it up here set at 87.98 millimeters. And you're going to see it right here where you see that 87.98, which is going to be the same thing as 3.5 inches. Now, to get these two together, right, I could do one of two things. I could invert it and do the manipulation first, or I could do it after I get it into this circle form. So to get it into a circle form, you're going to take your image and you're going to take the circle that I created, right? And by the way, this circle is something you can just grab a circle here and just make it. And that's exactly what I did. But you're going to select them both you're going to right arrow, and then you're going to choose something that's called a mask. So we're going to create a mask. Now, when I bring this up, notice what's happening. It's going to start to reveal, again, that face or that the person inside of this specific area. Now, once I've done that and I click done, now all of a sudden, this is the shape of my ornament, right? And I can make this larger, I can make this smaller, whatever I want to do. Now, if we go over here back to the ornament, right? The next thing we need to do is we need to change the actual or adjust this image so that we have an inversion. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose adjust again. And I'm going to choose invert. Now let me go ahead and move this over. Let me uncheck that so you can see this. So this is the image. I'm going to choose invert. Remember, everything that was, and what we'll do is this. Let's make another copy of this just so that you guys can see it. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to copy this. So we have a reference one so you can see what this looks like. I'm going to put this photo here. We're going to go back to this one. We're going to do an adjust. Move this over to the side. So I'm going to go ahead and invert it. And now notice, again, the difference, right? So everything that is white is going to be black. And then anything that has tones is going to be kind of give me, again, that texture, the shadow effect that you're getting from the lighting source that's coming from this side. I could reduce the number of grayscale items, right? If I bring that down to, let's say, 180, watch what's going to happen, right? So now what has happened, it has less, I would say, gray colors in it. So what it's going to do is it's going to have an image that could be seen as brighter because everything that is white is black and everything that is black is going to be white. So you'll notice that this area right here, let's go ahead and zoom in. Let's see, I'll go ahead and accept that as is and we'll zoom in. So when you look at this part right here, notice how it's light. That's this part right here. So that's going to be highlighted. If I were to go back here, and let's go ahead and adjust this one more time. Move this over to the side. And watch what's going to happen to this area of her cheek as I increase the grayscale. So I'm bringing this up, and I'm going to bring it up to 232. Notice how not just that area, but everything else lit up a little bit. I have now more layers or levels of gray. If I bring it all the way up, you'll notice now I can see more of the wrinkles, which were lost earlier. And that just means that I have, again, more layers. So if you look at this, you'll notice that if you were to think about the blacks, the grays, and the whites as just layers or shades, you're just increasing the number of shades that you can have. So I've seen, in my case, I've seen photos where I have at 100%, the 255, right? I've seen, you'll notice that I keep on going back to 180. 180 tends to be a good setting for me as well, depending on the photo itself. So if I go back down to like 179, 180, let's say right there. I've worked on this as one. I kind of like this setting as well. So you can work with either one. It's going to be your personal taste of what you'd like to see. All right, so now let's talk about the settings that I use. I'm going to go ahead and click on this image that you see here. The settings that I use is 120, 65, 400, 1 pass, and I use Jarvis. I kind of like Jarvis. There's another option that you can choose, and you can use grayscale if you want. I just choose Jarvis. It's kind of like, I already have a good sense of the settings, so I go with it, and I find that it gives me the best image, and that's my personal preference. But you'll notice, again, these are the settings that I'm using. Now, you're going to do the standard things that you do with any kind of engraving that you're working on. You're going to want to frame, make sure things look good. And if I go over here, a couple things that you're going to notice that's going on. And first thing is, I have a jig. This is kind of like a multi-jig that allows me to have jigs that are for the size of the F1 Ultra. And then I have these small jigs, which are the size of the F1. I have an F1 and an F1 Ultra. So I like being able to use jigs interchangeably. And then I also like the fact that if I slap one of the larger jigs on here, I can do that as well. So this jig right here is also in white. This is a laser safe white color. And I use the white jig because I'm able to engrave from end to end. So I'm getting everything. And I like my photos on my ornaments to feel like the entire ornament is the photo as opposed to a small piece of it. So by using a white jig, when the laser, again, the fiber laser is going, I don't really mark the actual jig itself. It doesn't really mark anything on there. And I kind of like that. It's kind of like me just being a little, I just don't like seeing jigs that have laser scorch marks on it. So this is just makes it look really nice, and you can reuse your jigs over and over again. So this is what you see right here. Now, if I were to move this over, you're going to notice here is my ornament. Ta-da! You see it right there? So that's the ornament, and then this is what's going to go over it. You'll notice that if I go back to where it was, and I'll do it one more time, it's covering the entire ornament. That means that the laser, as it goes over, is going to be end to end. And that's my personal preference. That's how I like it. You can make it small if you want. That's up to you. You could add text here. That's up to you. I do my ornaments with the face of the person, especially in this case. This is someone who's passed away. And then on the opposite side, I use the Xtool AI solution, which is found right here, right? To actually make the words I'm going to be using in the background. So we'll let this pop up in a second, but once it shows up, what you'll see is the actual software or AI software that you can use to create really nice, professional looking quotes with graphics and other things. Now, before we run this specific engraving, I want to show you what I did here so that those of you who really just want to literally copy things. Remember, it's going to be different for every photo. I chose invert. I didn't modify any of this stuff, but I have a really good photo to work with, and I used 100% of the, let's call it the grayscale spectrum, the 255 that's available, because I wanted to get more detail. So let's go ahead and run this engrave and see how it looks. All right, so that was 1 minute and 57 seconds. Let's see what we got. This is what I'm talking about here. Check that out. Absolutely fantastic. This is going to be a great ornament. Now, let's go ahead and print or engrave on the back side our message. Now let me show you how you can create some really high definition and professional looking quotes that you can have in the back of your ornament. So we're going to go here using Xtool's AI software. And when you go into AI Make, there's a lot of things that you can do. You'll see here that there are quotes, fall quotes for designs. You can also create your own logos. You'll see you have a variety of things, vector engravings. You have this 3D engraving, which is something that you can use, for example, if you're going to be using this for either metal or for slates, right? Really cool stuff that you can do. And what we're looking for is actually stuff like this, classic quotes, right? So I'm going to choose a classic quote. And you notice here are some of the ones that I've already created. And this is going to be really, really simple. So the text that I want to display is going to be, miss you every day, all right? And now for our image description, we're just going to type in bells and angel wings. Now over here, you can look at what your aspect ratio is going to be. We're going to leave it at 1:1. Image count that we want to have 2 of these, 2 versions. You can actually have up to 4 versions if you like. So we'll go ahead and choose 4. The amount of credits that it's going to require. And by the way, if there's something you don't like, you'll always get some credits back. So we're going to go ahead and hit generate, and we're going to see what it does. So here again, bells and angel wings, miss you every day. And you're going to get 4 samples coming across. Check that out. Oh, I love these, right? Miss you every day. Look at these. All these beautiful options. So what we're going to do is, I actually think I'm going to go with this one. Oh, let's look at this one right here. I like that one too. You know what? I think I'm going to go with this one. Now, for whatever reason, if you didn't like this, you can actually delete it and you'll get a couple credits back, right? So this took 24 credits. When I delete it, I'll get some credits back if that's something I want to do. But I actually like this one right here. So I'm going to go into this one. And this is what we'll have in the back of the ornament. And again, you can see all the details right here. I am actually going to import this into XCS. Now you saw how easy it was to import it into the existing project you're working on. Now let me show you the settings I'm going to be using for this specific image. So for this image, I'm going to go with the fiber laser. I'm going to be using a dot duration of 120, power of 65, and the DPI is going to be set at 400. I am going to only go one pass, and I'm going to be using Jarvis. And this, I just leave it at bidirectional. I'm not changing the frequency. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to size it. And I'm going to take it actually to one that I have over here that actually has the circle and also the image. Now, one thing that you notice once I put it on this layer that I should have gone with a transparent background, but I can fix that. So I'm just going to go here into edit, and then with the magic wand, I'm going to tap on the background, and you notice all of the text, all the white is gone. Just going to go click here, make sure I'm getting all the spots that I want to make sure that are gone. Oops, went a little bit too far, so we'll do it undo. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and make sure I can get that guy right there. This one right here as well. This one. And does that look good? Let's do this one right here as well. Yeah, that looks like I got everything. Everything is gone. Yes. Now, the one thing that you'll notice that is a little hard to see, right, what's going on here. And you notice over here how I have like a little orange circle. So to make that possible, there's a couple things that you can do. This all depends on the graphic that you're using, right? So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on to engrave just so I can see where things are going to go. This is going to help me with my sizing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to size this now that I can see things to where I'd like it to be. So that kind of looks really good. And once again, the settings are 120, 65, 400, 1, Jarvis. And now what we're going to do is we're going to send it to engrave. All right, so that took a little bit over 2 minutes, actually 2 minutes and 39 seconds. Now, for those of you who are interested in the engraving process for the F1, it's exactly the same. Every step I shared just a few seconds ago that focused on the F1 Ultra apply. Now, the settings I used are different because it's a different laser, different power, and it's just a different machine. So this isn't a picture. You'll notice the same thing applies here. Anything that is white is going to be black. Anything that is dark is going to be the person's skin tone, right? And you can see how we have different patterns going on here. And this is the kind of settings that I've chose, right? If we go back into our adjustment layer, you'll notice one of the things I did here, because of the picture itself, I actually had to reduce the number of gray levels it had. And that was because this was actually a photo that was sent to me, but it was actually a phone photo, right? So it, when you do something via messages, it just doesn't come out with the same level of quality. So I had to work with the photo a little bit here. So I did a couple things here. I reduced the brightness because I felt it was a little bit too bright, and then I modified this slightly just to get the kind of the experience that I wanted, or the photo that I wanted. Now the settings for the F1 were 280 dash We're using the IR laser. We're also power settings at 85, DPI at 500. One pass, and I used Jarvis. And the quality of this photo was similar to the other photo that you saw. This actually was a 3.5-inch coaster or ornament. And you'll notice that it was also the full size, just like the one that we did earlier where it was end to end. I did the same thing here. And again, your settings are IR, 280, 85, 500, one pass, Jarvis. So guys, that wraps up our review. See you in the next video.